This is
Make it plain.
MIP.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is really inspired, or his scheduling this time, we've talked before, but him being with us today is inspired by a tweet he sent out in response to real Donald Trump. And I literally could not stop laughing about it. I shared it with everyone I knew. It was completely hilarious. It just, it was just something about it. It was so subtle yet so funny. We'll get into that. He's a deputy director of rapid response from Media Matters as well. And as I said, he's good at responding to Donald Trump also. So joining us here on Make It Plain today, Andrew Lawrence. How are you, buddy? How's everything? And how are you and your family holding up in this pandemic?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. And thanks for having me. It's been a while since we've gotten to
Yeah. It's been too long. I'm not even sure why that is, but we got to do better about that.
Well, you moved to mornings, man. I'm not awake that early. You know?
That's right.
But
right.
my family is doing really well. Thank you for asking. They're in Florida, which is getting nailed right now, pretty bad.
What's up with that? So can we attribute Florida to the stupid governor and what he was trying to fight against?
Yeah, and I think you take a look at these states that are exploding right now. You've got Florida, Texas, Arizona. They all reopened about a month or so ago, and so I think we're starting to see the repercussions of that now. It takes a couple of weeks for people to start really showing symptoms and getting sick. A couple of weeks after that before people start getting hospitalized, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. So, and it's scary, and it sucks.
So your family's in Florida. So where are you?
I'm in DC.
You're in DC, okay. What's going on in DC?
DC. So today they announced the reopening phase 2 in DC.
Okay.
And we're not meeting the metrics to reopen, but we're doing it anyway. And it's just, doesn't it feel like the entire country is just kind of just sort of giving up and just going about their business? And it's really it's
like everything's normal again.
Yeah, and it just means this is going to keep going on and on.
Yeah, it's really kind of crazy. So about this tweet. So Trump says, he tweets, the Republican Party has not yet voted on a platform. First of all, we're going to unpack the tweet because it's a usually insane tweet. Like, who cares? Why are you even tweeting about this? Too much TMI, right? The Republican Party has not yet voted on a platform. No rush. I prefer a new and updated platform, short form if possible. So he thinks platform and short form are interchangeable. Like, platform is not a compound word, right?
Right.
Like short form and long form don't apply to platform, Andrew. Oh my God. Andrew, y'all. Man, I could not stop laughing. Andrew replies to Trump, y'all, and says, keep us updated, brother. Like, we really give a damn.
Right. Right.
And when you called him brother. Really, when you think about it, you were effectively trolling him in advance of the way we saw everybody troll him on Saturday night.
Right.
Saturday night made my life, Andrew. I was born again.
It was so funny, and then hearing the stories today about how upset he was, all that, and after making such a big deal for the last 5 years about how important crowd size is and bragging about his crowds, and all that, and the tweet that I responded to, I do not respond to Donald Trump all that often, it's
right.
I mean, I'm not one of those reply guys or anything, but that seeing it just out of nowhere, like if you don't know what's going on and you just see the president tweeting about this and just have no idea, like, where is this, where did it come from,
right.
Tweet about it. Maybe there was a segment on CNN or Fox that he was responding to or something, but it's just like, yeah, just keep us updated, man. Let us know.
Hey,
I mean,
keep us posted, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so silly, man.
And what would be even hilarious about it, the way you wrote it, I mean, he probably doesn't even realize that he was being trolled. If he bothered to read, he'd say, "Oh yeah, this is somebody, one of my supporters."
Right.
No, you are a clown, and we are trolling you. Oh my God, keep us posted, brother. Keep us updated.
Keep us updated. Keep working on it, man.
And that was the other thing. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who in his constituency is even looking for the platform, short form? I mean, they don't care about a platform.
No.
They're not reading no platform.
No.
Right?
No. And it's just, and he does that all the time. It's just, these weird tweets just completely out of nowhere. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic and he's, tweeting about Tucker Carlson's ratings or whatever the hell. Like it's so weird. But that one in particular was just completely out of nowhere, talking about the GOP platform when we're like 3 months away even from the convention.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
You've also been tweeting about, we were talking about Florida, but the fact of the matter is that, the lieutenant governor said people would be willing to die to save the economy. Mm-hmm. That's what's going on. I mean, cases are going up. That's the Texas lieutenant governor, I should say. Right. Cases are going up in Texas, aren't they?
Yeah. They're every single day they're hitting new records for more positive tests, which eventually is going to lead to more hospitalizations and all of that. And I mean, they knew it. They knew when they reopened, when they didn't require people to wear masks, when they said, social distancing isn't really necessary. They knew it would lead to more deaths and more people catching this thing and more people getting sick. And they said, I mean, straight up, like, it doesn't matter to us. Like, we have to open up and people are going to die, but that's just the cost of doing business. And the really frustrating thing is, I mean, this all started in, February. I know at Media Matters, we closed down our offices in mid-March. If we could have just done this for 3 months, just sat at home, if they could have just frozen rents and mortgages, given people $1,200 checks for 3 months, we would be on the other side of this at this point.
Right.
You look at New Zealand, you look at Denmark, they don't have any cases really anymore. South Korea, another good example, because they locked down and the people had discipline. And there's this weird mentality, especially on the right, where it's like they think the virus knows that we're Americans. And so, like, America doesn't have to do this. We're Americans. We can go out. Like, we have our freedom. We don't have to wear masks and all that. The virus doesn't care, man, And it's just so frustrating because we're going to be sitting here. We're going to be going through this, man, until there's a vaccine, and Lord knows when that is.
Right, because this thing could come back raging. We're already seeing numbers go up. But, Andrew, it seems to me that's even being reported in a kind of nonchalant, matter-of-fact way. Like, yo, this stuff is here. It hasn't left. And everybody's like, oh, cases go up, and we go on to the next thing, right? Am I right about that? Are you?
100% right. And you take a look at, like, really the first, I don't want to say the first wave because we're still in it, but people really started paying attention when the hospitals started reaching capacity and going over, and they didn't have the ventilators. And we're not there yet in Texas, Florida, Arizona, Georgia's another state. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there, and we are going to get there. And then at that point, once you're there, it's too late. There's just nothing you can do. And this thing just continues to spread. And it's so upsetting. And these people that we elect to lead us, they have not led us. And it's depressing, man. It really is, because there's going to be a lot of people dying that did not need to die. Yeah.
And that's going to be its own reckoning. Let me do this, folks, because I want you all just to remind you of what we heard some time ago. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick in Texas. Let's take a quick listen.
Happening to this country. And you know, Tucker, no one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in. And that doesn't make me noble or brave or anything like that. I just think there are lots of grandparents out there in this country, like me. I have 6 grandchildren, that what we all care about and what we love more than anything are those children. And I want to, you know, live smart and see through this, but I don't want the whole country to be sacrificed. And that's what I see. I've talked to hundreds of people, Tucker, and just in the last week, and making calls all the time. And everyone says pretty much the same thing, that we can't lose our whole country. We're having an economic collapse. I'm also a small businessman. I understand it. And I talk with business people all the time, Tucker. And my heart is lifted tonight by what I heard the president say, because we can do more than, you know, one thing at a time. We can do 2 things. So, you know, my message is that let's get back to work. Let's get back to living. Let's be smart about it. And those of us who are 70 plus, we'll take care of ourselves, but don't sacrifice the country. Don't do that. Don't ruin this great American
you're basically
dream.
Saying that this disease could take your life, but that's not the scariest thing to you. There's something that would be worse than dying.
Yeah.
All right. So that, again, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, folks, my God, I don't know, Andrew. I don't know why I would think people would vote for me after saying something like that.
Right.
Unless we really are in Jim Jones type territory.
Mm-hmm.
Are we?
For a certain percentage of the country, I think we are. You know, I mean, even this rally on Saturday, you still had 6,000 people showing up. I mean,
yeah, that was crazy.
It's crazy, and there were people camping out like 3 days ahead of time.
For no reason, because they thought there was going to be 1 million people out there.
Right.
Did you see how the Air Force One flew over and nobody was there?
Yeah. It's just so
I love it. So we've confirmed that these were teenagers who did this?
Did what?
That bought all the tickets. I mean, is that confirmed?
Well, I know that there was a campaign on TikTok, and then K-pop fans were signing up. But I don't think that really interfered with how many people were going to come out, because, you know, they just give out as many of these tickets as people sign up for. But I do think that it raised expectations to a really silly level. And it makes it even more funny when the arena was only a third of the way full as well. You know, but you know, one point I want to make is with that Dan Patrick clip that we just listened to, he's not talking about himself getting back to work. You know, he's talking about restaurant workers getting back. He's talking about the movie theater, the kids that work in movie theater. He's talking because he wants to go out and he wants to be entertained. You know, he wants you to put yourself at risk so that he can go out and get his hair cut and then go to a movie and then go to brunch the next day. And that's the thing. I mean, that interview that we just listened to that he gave, he was giving that from the comfort of his own home, and he's still working at home, you know? So it's not about him getting back to work, or for the most part, the people that support him getting back to work. It's about making you get back to work so that they can be entertained. And it's so cold hearted, man. And it's just, there's just no leadership coming from those types of people.
Not to mention, I mean, it is nothing worse than rushing back, right? And then having to close down again.
Right.
So then what does that do to the economy?
Kills it again.
I mean, if you want the economy to work, you got to make sure this stuff is cleared up.
Yeah.
So, because this is what you think about it. People are spending money on phase reopening guidelines. Now you spending this money, you don't have any money because your business hasn't been open. So anybody who can afford that is just literally putting that up for themselves.
Yep. The
thing falls apart again. That's money down the drain. That stuff's going to have to come down, and then you're going to have to put up some new stuff.
Right. It makes no sense.
I mean, you ain't even, Wall Street hang a shingle type dudes, but we just figured that out right now. I mean, that's just stupid.
Yeah, it's so dumb, man. And, this thing is going to explode again. It already is exploding again. And there's going to be no choice but to close down again. If we just would have had some discipline and some leadership, we could be, if not all the way through this, we'd be in pretty damn good shape right now. And we're just not. You know,
It's
it's really frustrating and depressing.
So, I mean, protesting is in my blood, but I have disciplined myself not to participate. Because I gotta stay alive a little while longer. I mean, I don't know what God has planned for me, Andrew, but I got a few more things I need to do before I check out. All right. Yes, my son just literally graduated from high school 2 weeks ago. So I need to just get him straight. And then maybe I'll go out in a blaze of glory. We'll see. But but I've been disciplined about it. Have you thought about yourself, what impact the demonstrations may have on the rising spread, or have you seen anything on that yet definitive?
As of right now, not yet. But again, you take a look at the time frame, and we're looking at, it's been about 2 weeks, right? Maybe a little bit more now at this point. And I think, you hate to say it, but I think we probably will see some impact of that at some point. Now with the protests all being outside, and you look at the protesters, and the majority of them are wearing masks out there. Hopefully that helps temper it some, at least, But you can't help but worry about that type of stuff. It's large gatherings of people. I think that, for the most part, when you look at the protesters, they're in a younger demographic, which don't seem to be as susceptible. But it still contributes to the spread. Yeah,
no question about it. But again, though, saying, I want to be clear, it's not the protest's fault.
No.
I mean, you're in the middle of a pandemic, and then you reinvigorate the police demic that has always been around before the pandemic. I mean, what in the hell are people supposed to do?
Can't just sit at home.
Right. I mean, and what's interesting is, it's kind of had an interesting effect to me, because people have been home and been a captive audience to these killings on loop. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's a good thing, because now, white folk I know, Andrew, and I'm sure you know, who never were vocal about this kind of thing, are like messed up. And I remember when it started with Ahmaud Arbery, white folks calling me and said, Mark, man, what in the world is this? Is this real? Does this stuff happen? I'm like, yeah, where y'all been? It's always happening. And so it's kind of an interesting thing, but it speaks to, don't you think, Andrew, just the crazy state our country is in. That, it's like the perfect storm under this man. You have a serious pandemic, and then a whole spate of lynchings on top of it. What other president could that happen to and they not be held accountable for? And I'm thinking every president we've known, even as Teflon as Ronald Reagan was. How could he even present himself as anything if all of these things were happening simultaneously? And then this fool is tweeting about a short form platform. He said, y'all know short form.
Right.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
So, people are coming out because they feel like they have no choice. Mm-hmm. But you're coming out in the middle of a pandemic. That just really shows the state of affairs in America today, doesn't it?
Oh, sure. And, to get to your point about how he sort of avoids blame for a lot of this stuff. I put the blame on that squarely at the feet of the Democratic Party. Yes, the pandemic is bad. And yes, it killed the economy. It didn't have to be this bad, though. It gets to what we were talking about earlier about not having any leadership, about not freezing mortgages and rents and giving people money. You just stay home and nip this in the bud. It didn't have to be this bad. And I don't hear the Democrats coming out and saying 40 million people are unemployed who weren't unemployed 3 months ago and laying it squarely at the feet of Donald Trump. Like, I don't understand where the Democratic Party is right here. And you look at the same thing with the protests. And what we're doing right now is just sort of nibbling around the corners. Like, yeah, all right, it's great that we're addressing chokeholds and banning chokeholds. Right. But that's not what this is about, It's so much bigger than that. And I don't see any attempts to address the systemic racism that we see in, education, government, finance, things like that. All I'm seeing from our leaders right now is banning chokeholds. And that's, fine, like that's good. Let's do that. But like that's not what these protests are about. And somehow you're right. Like this stuff does not stick to Donald Trump. I think that he's got a propaganda network at Fox News. It's the most watched cable news station in the country. Now, even on their highest rated nights, they're only getting about 3 million to 4 million viewers, which is, it's only about 1% of the population. So it's not huge, but it really does change the narrative and give people an argument to push back on when somebody blames Donald Trump for something that is his fault and that he deserves criticism of. But
now this may not be your lane. I know Angelo and I talk about this all the time, but just out of curiosity, do you know have any information about the latest standing with their advertisers? I know they've lost most of them.
So this is definitely more Angelo's lane than mine.
Okay.
But I keep up with all of it. It's pretty bleak right now, Mark. Especially Tucker Carlson. He's had a bad couple of weeks. So at this point, it's a lot of My Pillow ads, a lot of Trump Super PAC ads. But he lost. I mean, last week alone, he lost. I want to say 3 of his top 10 advertisers.
Wow.
And there's some that just aren't going to go. I mean, My Pillow's not going anywhere, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at some point, I mean, Fox News has got to. They're losing money. They could be making more money with somebody else in that time slot, and they're just losing millions of dollars just out of spite at this point. Because they just don't want like Media Matters to win or Sleeping Giants to win.
Yeah.
And they keep putting this dude up there at 8 o'clock, second highest rated show on cable news, to just spill his bile. I mean, it's so gross.
He's been attacking Black Lives Matter too, hasn't he?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's calling Black Lives Matter reverse racism and saying that it's going to make the playing field unequal for white people. That we don't have equality anymore because we're trying to make things more equal for Black Americans. It's straight up white supremacy every night from 8 to 9 o'clock on Fox News. And I mean, it's it's incredible. It's just wild that he still has a job.
Well, let's let the audience hear a little taste of this, you all, just so you can know what he's saying. Here's Tucker Carlson.
We now accept uncritically the claim that some people deserve better treatment based on how they were born, and some deserve worse. This is the most poisonous and the most destructive of all ideas. Other nations understand that. Rwanda has made it a crime to make ethnic appeals during elections, to practice identity politics, because they know very well where that leads. Yet identity politics is accelerating here. It shouldn't surprise you that most of the people pushing this poison are benefiting from it. They're using the recent chaos to codify dangerous trends already in progress, a permanently unequal society where some citizens are elevated and others are crushed. Winners and losers preordained by law. That's the country they're working toward. But Democrats know better than that. They don't lie to themselves. They understand there is a revolution in progress. The death of George Floyd may have sparked widespread outrage, sincere outrage, and they may share that outrage. But they also know that what is happening now has very little to do with George Floyd or people like him. Like all revolutions, the point is to destroy the current system and replace it with something new. But replace it with what? That's the question the rest of us should be asking right now. We should know what's coming. We know what we have now. Our current system has been in place for hundreds of years. It's based on a very simple idea. All people are created by God with equal moral value, period. Every one of them. For that reason, and that reason alone, all Americans are treated equally under the laws of the United States. In this country, we judge you for what you do, not how you were born. That idea has been the defining principle of America since the 18th century. It's the main reason we are the fairest.
Okay, I can't take any more. That is, as we all know, that is completely untrue. Right. We are judged based on where we're born, what we look like. I mean, he's talking that crap to that audience. He has, like, they have these pornographic fantasies. Tucker and those characters, Andrew, they fantasize being in old Rhodesia and the revolution taking away their farms and their land, as they should have. Okay. And again, in terms of the reach of this movement in a pandemic, I mean, man, they had me on Sky News the other week, and they led in with video of white students tearing down Cecil Rhodes' statue. And I was just blown away. I mean, these are white kids. So there's an awakening all over the world, and he's still talking this crap.
Right.
So you mentioned he lost 3 of his major advertisers, obviously because of this kind of rhetoric, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's stuff like this, and that one. You know, I mean, break down that clip. It's
Right.
He's saying that currently we are equal. You know, this is his point. Is he's saying like right now in America everyone is equal? Not true, but all right, that's what he's saying. Now he's saying that Black Lives Matter. If we get the policy changes that we want, all of a sudden America is not going to be equal anymore. He is saying that if you are born white in America, that you're going to have a tougher time than if you're born as a minority. And then he compares what he says identity politics, but what he's talking about is the policy changes that Black Lives Matter is fighting for. He's saying that implementing those policy changes is going to lead to genocide. That's what he is telling his audience. And, you know, he has a very rabid fan base among white supremacists on some of these awful message boards like 4chan,
Right.
Daily Informer, these Nazi websites. They love Tucker Carlson. And you know, these people are out there committing violence and using a lot of the same rhetoric that he is. And when you have, it's really shocking to hear the guy on Fox News in one of the most coveted time slots on cable news saying that identity politics is going to lead to genocide in America against white people. It's you know, we've gotten kind of numb to it. It's Tucker Carlson, and a lot of people just sort of brush it off and like, oh, he's a white supremacist. Like that's just
right.
But it shouldn't be acceptable. He shouldn't have that kind of megaphone. He should be, at best, he should be doing YouTube videos in his car, you know, at best. But he's out there on Fox News every single night. It's really, it's wild, man. And we really have become numb to it. And I don't want to see that happen.
No, not at all. But just a couple of things. So what's been trending too lately, a term he's developed, presidential harassment. Is that supposed to rhyme with sexual harassment?
Dude, I have
presidential
no idea.
harassment.
It's just anybody who investigates him, it's like unfair and they have to be fired and it's harassment. It's nuts, man. It's nuts.
So, but if you take it literally, just like short form and long form. So let's unpack this. The when you put an adjective like that in front of the word harassment, it usually refers to the method by which the harassment is taking place. So it is sexual harassment. It's not that sex is being harassed.
Right.
So when you say presidential harassment, you it's Freudian. I mean, you're really saying that you are the one using the presidency to harass the rest of us.
Right. Which we're seeing every single day, right?
You should tweet that, man. Just like I said, you'll get more response to it than me. I'm gonna give that one to you, okay?
I appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, presidential harassment. Let me know. You do that, and I'll push it too. But you know, that's what he's really saying when he's doing that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All caps, bunch of exclamation points.
Did you have? And forgive me for that, because I don't know. Have you ever had a career in comedy?
In comedy, no.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Dude, you are funny.
I appreciate it, Mark.
And even the tweet about Amy Klobuchar. And don't get me wrong, I like Amy and everything, and I don't want her to get mad at me. But I was trying to resist it. She announced she's withdrawing from consideration to be Joe Biden's presidential choice, and you tweeted, "I am withdrawing to be Chris Hemsworth's body double." I mean, come on, man. That's what. Saturday night after the Tulsa rally, you saw the Sharpies.
No, I didn't.
Oh, no, that was trending, man. People were drawing Sharpie stick figures in the empty spaces. You did not see that.
I know, I didn't see that.
They were drawing Sharpie stick faces. Somebody even, he was trying to prove, which really, you've really reached I don't know what level you've reached. I don't even know if low is enough. Mm-hmm. When you feel compelled to defend or prove you can hold up a glass of water with one hand.
Oh God!
That's airtime and money. Air Force One taxpayer dollars flew you in, and so somebody drew a stick figure, helping him hold up the glass. And
Oh,
all
it's
the empty
great.
seats there were stick figures.
Oh, it's great.
And then when somebody pulled a photo of the two inaugurals, Obama and Trump,
Right.
and someone around Trump's crowd, they drew a pink Sharpie, pink Sharpie with a pink penis. It was real small. And then on the Obama crowd, they had a black Sharpie with a big, long black penis around the whole crowd.
Oh, God.
I'll tell you, Andrew, if folk was trolling me like that on social, I'd probably just commit suicide. I mean, that's the only honorable thing to do.
Nothing else at that point, man. Well, and it's so funny because, you know, you've got this guy. I mean, look, Donald Trump is like he's a tub of goo, right? And he's got brain worms. Like, he's not the brightest guy. And they treat him, his most rabid supporters treat this guy like he's some alpha male god. It's so weird, man. Yeah. And I mean, he's in terrible shape. He can barely talk at this point. He can barely hold up a glass of water. And the way that they look at him, I mean, you know, I could maybe even understand if there was some authoritarian ruler that, you know, but that's not Trump. Like, he's just this weird guy, man. And they love him.
One of the headlines of Media Matters too, you know, this thing of he said slow down the testing. Mm-hmm. And so Fox is even trying to bat cleanup on that.
Right.
Because they really have no choice. That's a terrible thing to say. Why do you say that?
Right.
Why would you say, I told them to slow down the testing? That is insane.
Yeah.
In the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, it's, and they tried to play it off as a joke. Like, it wasn't a joke. And we saw him do that. I mean, you remember when there was the cruise ship outside of California, and he was saying, like, he didn't want to bring them in because that means that we're going to have to count their cases, and I want to keep the number of cases low. Right. You know, stuff like that. And it's just, that's all he cares about is like the moment to moment PR. Does this help my election today? Versus if he would have handled this pandemic in a responsible way and really gotten it right and actually kept the cases down, he would have gotten a lot of credit for that. You know? But instead, it was more about fun.
The best way to help your campaign is to create a safe environment for people.
Right. But in his mind, he has to keep the numbers low every single day. And it's just that goldfish brain, man. And it's getting people killed, you know?
Other great articles at Media Matters, folks. 9 ways Fox has pushed disinformation about civil unrest to terrify its audience. How Fox figures defend racist monuments. I mean, this has just become racist palooza over there. That's, you know, doctored videos on the unrest and the protest, all of that, doctored information. Confederate statues pushing that. So here's my last question for you. So we see what's happening with Bubba Wallace in their favorite venue, NASCAR.
Right.
And that's Trump world. So is that gonna incite or enable some of them in that universe, or are there even some of them, even if it's a few? And I'm just asking you speculate because I know you're nowhere near that universe, but even if it's a few, is that going to say to even some of his supporters, you know, I'm getting a little weary of this. This is a little bit out of control. It's too much.
I don't know, unless, you know, if he came out and said, if Trump came out and said, yeah, NASCAR made the right decision, you know, but he's out there praising Confederate generals and saying we can't take the statues down. Right. And it, you know, and it's that kind of stuff that's gonna lead to, you know, and I'm not saying it was a Trump supporter or whatever, but the noose in Bubba Wallace's garage overnight, it's, I mean, Trump has so much power over that 30% of the country. That if he said, you know, all right, the Confederate statues need to come down, the Confederate flag, it just has no business. I mean, you know, and let's be honest, the Confederacy were a bunch of traitors and losers.
Right.
You know, but he's not going to do that because the people that like the Confederate flag and the people that support the Confederate generals and support the Confederacy are his fans. They're nice to him, and he is always going to take the side of whoever was nice to him. It's just that weird thing. And so his supporters like the Confederate flag. And so, I mean, I'm going to assume the Confederate flags are going to keep showing up in NASCAR events, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
So they already had Confederate flags there. Now it's just noose. I mean, that's a direct line, a direct relationship between the two.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you have, they try to argue that the Confederate flag is just about heritage, just not about racist. And then what is it? Just a coincidence that a noose ends up in Bubba Wallace, the only black NASCAR driver, after he says, after he comes out against the Confederate flag, Black Lives Matter car and all that. Like, no, it's not about heritage,
Right. Insane.
Yeah. It's sad, man. It really is.
Andrew also, folks, I envy him. His name begins with an A, so he can just use the @ sign on Twitter for the first letter in his name. So cool. Andrew _Lawrence. Happy Father's Day too, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man. Same to you.
See baby boy, and as always, you always keep him front and center.
That's me, Mark, with a big old head of hair. Yeah, that's me.
I thought that was your son.
Everybody thinks that.
What?
Yeah, that's me, man.
How old are you in that picture?
Oh, probably 4, maybe.
Wow, that's great, man. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
At a Florida State game with my mom and dad.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, listen, man, let's not stay so far apart so long.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk.
But you're making my day, man. You're giving me life with all the funny tweets and the comebacks,
I appreciate it, Mark, man. It's really good talking to you, man. It's been way too long.
Yeah. Rapid response, folks. MediaMatters.org. Andrew Lawrence. Thanks again, Andrew.
Thank you, Mark.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.